Our topic today is part 5 of The Art of Living, and the business of living is the specific idea today. I'm still using Raymond Charles Barker's book, The Science of Successful Living, as inspiration. And in his chapter 6, it's called The Intangible and Business. And yeah, he does talk about business. And when I first came here to the Center for Spiritual Living Princeton years ago, I actually had a group for a while. I think we met once a month, Wednesday mornings, in some local place. I think it was 7:30 a.m. It was before, business hours started. And it was designed for business owners. And I called it BOSS, Business Owners Spiritual Support. And I worked with those people who came to support them in realizing the divine idea that is moving through them and creating this business that they are the leader of. And so my talk today is going to be about that, but I want you to realize that Raymond Charles Barker, as well as myself, we also say that business is not just if you have a physical entity where you produce income and do something in the world called a business. But he begins his chapter by saying, you start in business the moment you are born. Life is our business. And he says, life doesn't wait until you are an adult to put you in business. Business is activity specialized for the production of a creative good. But the distinction between life and death is activity. And so business is the activity of our lives. And how we manage that makes all the difference. It doesn't matter whether your business is keeping a home together, whether it is working with children or being with children or being with pets, whether it's something through which money flows or not. The business is the business of your life. And if we were to approach our lives, our whole lives, as seriously as we approach the life of a business, we might be more successful. Because in approaching a business expression, we need to plan, we need to think intelligently, we need to gather together what resources we have, and we need to use those resources intelligently. And so we need to think about what we are doing. And how many of us really think about our lives? What am I doing? So he says business is the activity necessary for an idea to become form, and that form to be used. In other words, we are created by the divine with the gift of entertaining ideas. Ideals, spiritual qualities, I call ideals, as well as ideas, these ideals taking form. And we might come up with a goal, which is, let me make a car, a particular car, and we can see it in our mind and we work with it and we make it and then we see it, we produce that car, or a piece of art, or a book, or as Michael said, what have you been working on the past 8.5 months to birth? Did you have an idea? But a lot of us just drift along in our lives. We just go along and maybe everything's very pleasant, but we're not thinking in terms of entertaining ideas that will be produced by means of us. And yet, that's our business. That's our activity. That's what we're doing. And so what he says is every person is in business. Housewife, housefather, mother, child is in business, right? Children, if you're out there, you're in business. Your business at the moment is to learn what you need to learn so that you could do what you want to do without your parents around, right? You have to run a home, drive a car, and socialize with others. Some believe that at a certain age, right, you retire from business. But what we want to realize, you're only retiring from an income producing activity, but you are not retiring from activity. Again, if you do, that's the definition of death. So you don't want to go there. So a business is an idea. Large or small, it is an idea in action. And an idea is dependent only on the action of the creative mind for its operation, maintenance, develop, and future. If you know you are working with an idea, then you do not overemphasize the facts, the details. How do I do this? How do I make more money? How do I get more people to come? How do I get more people to know about my idea? We don't overemphasize that because he goes on to say, material thinking, not backed up by a spiritual vision, is the most depleting process anyone will ever know. So, how many of you have tried to get something to work in your home or at your place of business? And you're trying to figure it out and trying to figure it out, but you forgot all about the spiritual reason that you're there. And so we are separated. We have separated ourselves from the divine and left to our own devices. Yet what we have available to us is an infinite mind that knows more than us and that can support us and make it easier for us. A number of years ago, when I was first into this teaching, so it was probably 30, 40 years ago or something, I bought, well, we don't have these anymore. I bought an entertainment center, right? They're like, you can't even give them away right now, right? These big, huge things that holds all those big things that we used to own. And I bought it from IKEA. So when I got it home, it seemed to think I should put it together. And I think I had asked the salesperson if I could put it together, and they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And I got it home, and I took out the instructions. I'm like, all right, I believed. They said I could do it. Let me do it. I opened it up. And the very first thing it said was, have your assistant hold this side panel. And I lived alone. So where's the assistant? And I'm like, what the heck? And then I remembered the divine presence is my assistant. And so I did a spiritual mind treatment that this is perfectly put together and that the divine is my assistant. And I went about following the instructions. And whenever it called for the assistant to do something, I would call out, assistant. And I would, like my foot would fling into a position and stabilize something, or my elbow would move into position. But some part of this body was moved in position without my thinking about it whenever I called for my assistant to help. And I got this whole big thing all put together. And I loved it because I did it. The divine and I did it. God and company did it. And so we have to remember that. And when we don't remember that, we struggle, right? We struggle. He's again, and you can tell that you've forgotten that God is in business with you if whatever you are doing is creating stress and you're getting exhausted and frustrated and drained and we can certainly do that if we like. But we could also call on that divine presence to support us. I have had, as been mentioned, I think part of the reason for my human discombobulation right now is we did move our office just down the hall. What's the big deal? So I did spend some time there yesterday setting up the phone. So if you would like a spiritual mind treatment, you can dial 609-924-8422, our office number, and press 1. And hopefully you'll hear a spiritual mind treatment because I followed the instructions. But I was having so much peace about doing this, and I knew it was because I had all these practitioners treating that there is no stress and that I'm in a good mood. Actually, my request has been that I'm in a good mood, right? Because the divine is supporting me. And so I was able to follow the instructions. I was able to do what needed to be done. And then I decided while I was in the office to use my cell phone to call the office number and see how it worked. I called the office number and the phone wasn't ringing. The phone that I had used to program the whole thing, it was not ringing. I'm like, why is this not ringing? Assistant, why isn't this ringing? And it came to me, oh, I bet we've got two phone lines, one for our credit card machine and one for our phone system. I bet the person who installed it put it in the wrong spots. And so I just switched the telephone wires and it worked. How did I know that? Genius. Because the divine mind being there, supporting us in our business of living, gave me the idea. Maybe the outlet, the little phone hitchies are in the wrong thingies. At my level of understanding, right? It's enough. So hopefully you can call in 24/7 and get that spiritual mind treatment, and our practitioners can happily go back to work. And every month, a different practitioner leaves a spiritual mind treatment on our number. So that's that. Hopefully it works. So, okay. Susan, don't try yet because there's a different phone number you have to call, blah, 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 blah. Okay. God knows what it's doing. So he gives a little spiritual mind treatment here, which I would like to read for all of us to contemplate. So just take a moment. My business is God's business, and it is owned, operated, and expanded by divine ideas. The exactly right idea which I need for this day now unfolds in my consciousness. Coming from the divine intelligence, it has within it every lesser idea I need to know. I now let this right idea govern my thinking. I am open and receptive to new angles, new perspectives, and new plans. God, as mind, knows what I need to know, and I am one with all minds, so I now know all that I need to know. And so it is. And so that spiritual mind treatment is available to us in every activity we engage in. But we have to remember it. We have to remember that we're not alone and that we do have resources provided to us, but the real gift of success is divine ideas. To know the purpose for which you are doing what you are doing. I sat down, I listened to a little workshop on our computer at our new office by David Allen, Getting Things Done. You know, it was a little TED talk that he gave, probably 8 years ago or something, but still a goodie. And he said in the talk, he said, okay, everybody take a minute right now. And I gave you paper and write down, what project do you have on your mind right now? So I wrote the move. And then he said, now, what is the purpose? In other words, what is the form going to be that will know that you are complete with this project that you have before you? What does it look like for you to know the project is done and you can cross it off your list? So what we realize is we receive a divine ideal, which is that urge to express something more, and it comes into us as an idea of what we would like to have as a project to create and see and form. And so when we think of that project, we don't want to forget the divine ideal that originally motivated us. What human beings tend to do is we get that urge, I want more good, I want blah, 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 whatever. And then we get a really great idea to make it happen. And then we get all focused on the idea happening and forget to connect to the originating ideal. And so the originating ideal for our center moving the office was greater ease. We had a larger office. We weren't using it. It was costing a lot of money. and it was getting increasingly more difficult to be there and not use all of the space. And so we moved into a smaller place, which is going to be just perfect for where we are right now and much easier to maintain. And the divine purpose is and was at the beginning and still is greater ease, greater freedom. That's the whole point. Moving from good to greater good. And so the unfolding, which takes the form of unpacking and setting up all the technology and all the little things that needs to be done and the sign and the blah, 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 who knows? God's keeping the list. God's keeping the to-do list. Because with the divine purpose being greater peace and ease and freedom, then the ways and means must be the same. From above, down below, but from above to below, but all the steps in between. And you know you've lost the vision, the divine vision. You know you've lost the divine quality if one of the steps is not exhibiting that quality. So it being grace and peace and ease, that was our whole beginning idea. And then if I'm struggling with the phone, I've forgotten that that divine presence is there and that our purpose is greater ease. When I reconnect, it flows. I had a wonderful time yesterday at the office on Saturday. And yeah, I did a couple things that might have not have been divinely guided. And I kind of hurt my thumb. Poor little thumb. It might not have been divine guidance that told me to move something that I did. But Karen thinking, this will solve this problem. Let me drag this over here and stick this over here, whatever. Okay. So we do this all the time. But for the most part, I was there in complete peace. And the ideas of what to do as part of this project of move came to me peacefully, easily, gracefully. When I dialed the phone number and the phone didn't ring, I didn't like go into a panic. I went, that's interesting. And then I listened. What could it be? I know I did what I did. I know that the phone company did what they thought that they were going to do. Somewhere there might have been a thing, whatever. I might have to call them again, but that's okay. It'll all happen on perfect right order and divine right action, because the whole purpose of the whole activity, creating something, is greater ease. So what is your purpose? We want to get that straight. And so years ago, when I worked with the business owners, that would be the first thing that we would connect to, I would have them identify is, what is the divine purpose of your business? What is the divine purpose? And every single business is an idea flowing from the divine ideals. And what happens with every single business is the founder, the initiator, the one who receives that divine urge and comes up with that agreement to bring this forward. They are alive with this divine ideal and its purpose. But as the business, right, starts taking form and all the details start getting worked out and maybe the decades move on or whatever, people forget or they don't know what it is. I used to be a leadership coach when I also first started coming here. And I would go into different, there's a lot of major corporations around here in the Princeton area. And I would go and meet with top executives, middle managers, and the administrative support staff. And with each one of them, I would ask them, I wouldn't use these words, but what is the divine purpose? I wouldn't use that word, but what's the purpose? What's the greater good that your business is doing, or that your department is doing, or that your job is? What is your purpose for being there? And Raymond Charles Barker says in here, it doesn't matter whether you're working for someone else or not, that one person, he says, where you work, you are needed. particularly if you have a spiritual understanding of the purpose of business. You can be the leaven unto the whole loaf. So even if you're, in a back corner office with not knowing what the big picture is and not seeing the sales reports or whatever, and not knowing how it all fits together, if you have a consciousness of spiritual understanding and that there is a spiritual purpose for this business to be, and that this spiritual purpose existed in the founder, in the originator of that business. And though everybody since then may have disconnected from it, you can be the connection. You can know what that purpose is. And by your presence, your consciousness alone, everything in that company can change for the good. I know it because I've done it. Been the little administrative staff over in a little corner somewhere and seeing absolute chaos reigning throughout an entire company. Low profits, bankruptcy, the whole shebang. And I'm like, what's the spiritual purpose of this business? And so anywhere you work, I don't care where you work, anywhere you have activity, there is a divine purpose for that business. And if you discover it and connect with it, you can affect that company more than the chief top executive. Because one with God is a complete majority. It's not that we're all so great, that we are the ones that are one with God, that makes us the determining influencer of what's going on. It's because nobody else is right now. Probably whatever group you are in, you are the one who has more understanding or more of a belief of truth than anyone else. And I know this is true if you're here listening to this right now. I mean, we have a room filled with practitioner consciousness. That it just is that your consciousness matters with whatever group you are. So first of all, you need to remember that your consciousness matters, and that just your consciousness of truth alone can improve the whole company, the whole loaf, your presence alone. And so that one company that I went into, which was filed, Chapter 11 a few months after I joined it, I'm like, well, this is a fine mess. Maybe I should start looking for another job, or maybe what's the divine purpose of this company? And let me get behind that. And I did. And every day from that point on, I did a spiritual mind treatment for the God's purpose in creating this company to be manifested everywhere. I was there 5 years. They came out of Chapter 11, were able to pay every creditor dollar for dollar. And they came out thriving. And then I was guided to come here. They replaced me. My job was done. So he says, this idea, I want to say something. What do you take to your business of living each morning? You take your consciousness. And so whether it be in a company, in a work that you're taking your consciousness, or whether it be that you're waking up and it's now your home. I mean, why is your home the way that it is? It's because of your consciousness. And so realizing that your business, your job, is to keep your consciousness at that level that you choose, which why not choose it to be at the highest level where that divine assistant is guiding you and, bringing your elbow into the position that you need, or giving you the next idea that you need to make the phone system work perfectly. If you are aware that that divine presence is with you, is the chief operating officer of your business, if you realize this, then you are open to its inspiration and its guidance. And you are fully engaged in your world. And it doesn't matter if you're working for another company or if you're not working out there in a business in the world at all. You are fully engaged in keeping your consciousness aware of the support and the presence of the divine. That's all you have to do. How easy is this to just remember, oh yeah, that's right, there's a God. That's it. There's a God. I'm surprised at how much I don't remember that. You know, I wash my dishes, I don't think there is a God helping me. You know, why not? Cook your dinner. There's a God that's cooking this dinner, guiding me. We can be aware every moment, but if you're like me, you know, maybe some of the moments, but the thing is that when you are about to engage in some new idea that's important to you, and maybe that you're feeling a lot of stress about or worry about, that's the time to remember there is a God. And then to say, wait a minute, this is God's business. What is God's purpose? I unite with that. And then the ways and means will be equal. He has us another little treatment here. So take a moment. My business is God's business, and it is owned, operated, and expanded by divine ideas. The exactly right idea which I need for this day. Oh, no, I already said this one, right? Hang on. That's okay. You want to hear it again? Take another moment. Life is activity. It is business. God is life, and I am the action of the life of God. I am a center of intelligence in the mind of God. Today, I work with ease. I let divine ideas function in my thinking. I let divine love govern my emotions. I shall accomplish through the power of God that indwells me. I like my work, my coworkers, and my responsibilities. Through these, I give value to life, and in turn, I am of value to God. We want to think that way about everything. Again, this is the art of living. This is the fifth in our series. So about how to like really enjoy this thing that we've got called life. And so to take your life seriously enough that this is a business, it's God and I in action, and that there is no need for struggle and strain, and there is no need for hate. How many people in the world say they hate their job? They hate their coworkers, that they would be just fine if they worked somewhere else. I see my practitioners here all going, no. Go ahead, change jobs if you must. But don't be surprised if you find yourself in the job that you're going to. And that consciousness of hate will always find something to hate. Raymond Charles Barker writes, people have come to me for counsel and have told me that they hated their jobs, hated their associates, and hated the companies for whom they worked. Unfortunately, there are thousands of people in such states of mind. Thousands? Millions. And only a few of them make any effort to change their thinking. My discussion with these people leads to one basic question. Why do you hate anything? Why do you hate anything? We consider that just normal. I hate this, I hate that, I hate this. Why? It's an abnormal emotion. It's not a healthy emotion. Why hate anything? He says, hate is an abnormal diversion of the capacity to love. When I went into what I consider to be that business that I started treating for, when I was guided to go into it, I thought, the business world. I hate the business world, the corporate structure. I had gotten out of it. I was an actress, and here I was being divinely guided to go back into it again. And everything in me was like, oh, what about your freedom? What about your hours? What about the structure? What about everything that you earned? And the divine self in me, thank goodness, said louder than everything else, shut up and go. And I realized that I was going back into the business corporate world because I had not yet fully learned how to love. And so I went back there, bored with the work. I mean, the company went bankrupt. The work was up to the ceiling. There was screaming and yelling going on all over the place. And I went in to practice loving where I did not love. I wasn't feeling the mood. I wasn't feeling the love. But love is a verb. It is an action. And I decided to act as if I loved that company and everyone in it. And then that demanded that I behave that way. And so whenever I was finding myself frustrated or not liking someone or something that was going on, I did a treatment that love is here and that I am united with love and that love will demonstrate. Love has you pay attention. Love has you think about your beloved. Love has you respect and speak well of your beloved. Love has you be gentle and to forgive and to give your beloved the benefit of the doubt. Love calls on you to change yourself, to be more flexible and to be more willing to search and to work at finding what there is to love. Love requires you to not have all the answers and not really understand what's going on. Love requires you to see some things that don't look quite right, but to realize you don't have all the information. And that divine love does have all that information. And therefore, somehow, that presence of love is making everything right, even if you're not a part of it and even if you don't see it. And to trust. Love requires us to trust that love is at work and that the people that you are loving, that you're working at loving, are basically good because they have the presence of the divine within them, the same as within you. And to realize that presence of the divine is absolutely present within them, operating through their level of understanding. But it's not for us to judge their level of understanding. Love requires us to accept that it is their level of understanding that we are seeing, but not the essential person. And we know that for the others because we want to know that for ourselves. And to go into any workplace with that consciousness, that requires some work. It requires some work. That's why I did spiritual mind treatment for this company every single day. I woke in, I sat down at my desk. First of all, they gave me a job which I knew was impossible for me to do because I really didn't know how to do the job. But the divine mind knew what to do. So I would do a treatment that I did what was divinely for me to do for the greatest success of all, myself and the company. And then I did a treatment for the company without me in the picture. That it's the presence of love and that it is doing this love regardless of what some of its employees might be thinking. That would be me. I would be a good practitioner to this company, and it flourished as a result of that work I did in consciousness. So he says, you cannot escape the business of living no matter how hard you try. Hating what you do only ties you more completely to it. It means that you are allowing a strong negative dislike to rule your thinking for a minimum of 8 hours a day, or probably 16 or 24 hours if you wake up in the middle of the night, right? And so an ideal, again, right? Ideal, divine ideal, in some form, is in the place where you work. And you can find it if you really want to find it. If hate and resentment have dominated your thinking for a long time, You will not even try to find a good in that which you label as evil. Yet the good is there because God is omnipresent the whole creation through. And this includes the place where you work and the people with whom you work. And it's up to us to find it. So that's a lot. But man, I wish I remembered it more. You know, what the heck? Because this great and glorious life is here with us now and always. And love is always present. And there is always a way forward. There is always a solution to every single problem. But the struggle and the trouble and the problems and the sleepless nights and the worries and the issues and the, thumb boo-boo, I mean, all of that comes from not remembering that this all good is present and letting it be active in your activity. Business is activity. Letting the divine be active in your activity. That's the business of living. And it's so, so easy when we remember, right? Okay, so let's take a moment and let all that percolate in our being. And after Reverend Rich sings this song, we'll come back and I'll do a spiritual mind treatment that I'll direct the law to remind us so it gets easier to remember. So let's do that now.